Hello, I'm Frank Bart, Mayor for the Village of Wakanda, and I'm here to give the second annual State of the Village Address. So we'll begin with our strategic goals. In 2014, we began a strategic planning process. Actually, 2013, we began a strategic planning process that ended in a strategic plan that is supported by all of the stakeholders. So we involved the businesses, we involved residents, and we involved other municipal entities so that we could come up with a strong strategic plan for Wakanda for the next 5 years. And in that, we came up with these three strategic goals. So first was that we are set to obtain Lake Michigan water. Second is that we have the focus on economic development so that we can diversify our tax base and not have such a heavy reliance on property taxes. And then lastly, we have excellence in government, where we want to establish the most effective, so we accomplish our missions, and efficient, we use the least resources necessary to do those missions for the citizens of Wakanda. Looking at those goals then, for Lake Michigan water, we started off with our agreement with our supplier and the provider. We look at the internal improvements process, so we have three different phases. There's phase 1, 2, and 3, and those are different segments of running water mains in Wakanda, and we're in the process now of phase 2. So we're well underway to completing that project. And then lastly is the transmission main, and so that is in the engineering phase now. We'll go into some greater detail. When you look at the timeline of this, so the purpose of this slide is to show how long this project actually covers. It's covered multiple administrations and a long period of time. Mayor Sakamano began this process in 2006 when he requested the allocation for Lake Michigan water, and then the feasibility work on this project actually began after the referendum in 2012, where we asked the voters if they were interested in borrowing the money for Lake Michigan water in order to do the project, and we began the feasibility in 2013. You can see here on the Lake Michigan water project, the first thing we had to address was the financing, and so the referendum stated that the project will borrow up to $41 million towards property taxes. The problem that we ran into immediately is that in 2013, when I took office, there was only a little over $14 million available to borrow because we have a legal debt limit for the village. So we immediately looked at ways to actually complete the plan, and that involved some rather complicated financing processes, whereas before it was mostly focused on property tax. Now it's going to be a stronger mix of outside financing, as well as a reliance on some water rates, more reliance on water rates. So it could be by the end of the planning process, and again we still have a ways to go, but it could be about a 60-40 split for property tax and water rate costs for the project versus before it was more about an 80-20 split. So we're looking now, the external project is currently undergoing preliminary engineering, and the costs will more accurately be identified as we finish this engineering process in the fall of 2016. So we'll keep you posted as this project progresses. On this slide, we're looking at the economic development strategic goal. And one of our main goals is attracting new businesses. But as you know, Illinois is one of the highest in property taxes, and so and in taxes in general. That makes it more difficult for economic development attraction. But we've been able to do some of that in Wakanda. The other focus is on retaining existing businesses, and we've been very successful at retaining several key businesses for Wakanda. That's made a big difference for us in our sales tax revenue, and that's our real goal. Is that we want to separate our streams of revenue so that we're less reliant on property taxes, and the other streams of revenue, as an example, sales tax, pick up more of the burden for that, so that we actually kill two birds with one stone. The things that we buy also help pay for the services from the government. And education, business partnerships, and annexations are also part of our economic development plan. And then also infrastructure is a key component in that. There's really three strategies we have here to attract and retain businesses. The first is infrastructure and what we offer regarding that for roads, streets, sewers, water, so on, and the police service as well, public safety. And then also we look at what incentives we can offer businesses financially. So the financial component of that's important. And we do have the TIF district, which tax incremental financing is what TIF stands for, and it uses the growth, the taxes from the growth and the development of these areas to pay for the infrastructure. And then lastly in that we have our government processes. So all the bureaucracy that they have to deal with, we've tried to streamline that as best we can and make it a simple process for businesses so that it makes Wakanda their first choice. Looking at development, this is a good overview of what's happened in the village in 2016, and you can see it's basically a stagnant period for us here. We've had about a 2.6% decrease in permits, and the reduction from the prior year on the actual dollars, which is a guide. It's not the greatest indicator, but it's a guide for us as far as metrics are concerned to see where we're at development-wise. And we've been stagnant basically from last year. So that gives us a good idea of the way things have headed in spite of our best efforts. So our focus is definitely on development. We had 22 businesses start in Wakanda last year, and that was a difference of 2. So we're again down by 2 businesses from the previous year. So things have been relatively stagnant, and we're looking to see what we can do to affect that. On this slide, you'll see the number of the 22 new businesses that have come to Wakanda. We've put their logos on here just to give you an idea of all the different companies that have come to Wakanda. Everything from pizzerias to apparel stores to industrial complex businesses, and we're happy to have them in Wakanda. Okay, for our key projects in Wakanda for economic development, you'll see Life Storage, which used to be the old Dominic's building, has been vacant for over 10 years. And that was one of the priorities that I had when I first took office, was to work with our development team to try to get a user for that building. And so that has actually been more of a challenge than we thought it would be. The problem is that most of these businesses have criteria, screening criteria, so they won't even consider the lot unless it meets certain criteria. And in those is a lighted 4-way intersection. So because of the overpass, some of these bigger businesses that we pursued, like Target, Walmart, Woodman's Grocery, were not interested in this lot, and they considered a B or a C lot for development because it doesn't yield the results that they want because of the infrastructure. So that's been a challenge for us to fill. We would like to have seen a grocer or another retailer in there, but Life Storage approached us, and Life Storage is a high-end storage facility that's climate controlled. We're excited to have them. We're excited to have the building purchased and under development now. And what they're doing there, they're actually going to increase the square footage of the building. So the square footage of the building is about 78,000 square feet. The middle part is going to increase to about 100,000 square feet, and the other 28,000 they're still going to market for retail over there. And they also plan to build a couple of outbuildings there closer to the Walgreens, so that'll also provide around 13,000 square feet of retail space. So we'd like to see that development. We're happy to have them in Wakanda. The overall development is a significant multi-million-dollar development, and so that's the progress we've been able to make with the vacant Dominic's building. Small Town Brewery, so they've created a microbrewery and tasting facility. We were happy to have them in Wakanda. Of course, Small Town Brewery started in our industrial park, and now because they've expanded nationwide, in fact, they were listed in the front page of the Wall Street Journal business section for being one of the fastest growing small brewers in the country. It's now brewed in Wisconsin at one of the large brewers. But the tasting room and the products which we enjoy here with one of the favorites is Not Your Father's root beer, is a very tasty product there, and we're happy to have them stay in Wakanda. Side Lots is obviously was the old Murphy's when after they burned. We're happy to have that family involved. Obviously they had several successful enterprises with Lindy's and the pizzeria, and so we're happy to have them and look forward to their continued success with the Side Lots. Stack On Products is also coming up with a new paint line, and they've remodeled their facility. We've been working hand in hand with the fire district to ensure that we get a good product there for them from our services and keep them in Wakanda. So we're happy to have Stack On expand their facility, renovate their facility, and expand their product line. Wakanda Recycling used to be the old Chicago Cutlery building there on Bonner. We're happy to have that no longer vacant, and it gives you an outlet if you want to drop off your recycling. They're happy to take it, and probably the largest development we've had, aside from the Dominic's building, has been Pat and Caterpillar. So we're very excited to have Pat and Caterpillar. That's going to add a lot to the revenue for the community, and it's also going to help support the other industries that we have in Wakanda for heavy equipment. One of those folks that is supported by Patton Caterpillar is Berger Excavating, and they've also expanded their operations there with new facilities. And so we're happy to keep Berger in town, and we're happy to keep Berger moving forward and expanding. And then AccuVision has taken over the old Mill Street Cafe on Mill across from Transfiguration Parish, and so we're happy to have another optometrist in town, and that gives us more opportunities for our citizens for their health care. And then lastly, Monster Power Sports. And Monster Power Sports has actually had a significant change in their business model. They've expanded threefold, and we had to go through a more creative solution for Monster Power Sports, and we'll go into some of the details with that. So Monster Power Sports, they had a strip mall that they wanted to expand into. In that strip mall, the fire code requires sprinkler systems, and the cost of those sprinkler systems would have been over $100,000. So that obviously was very cost prohibitive, and it would have caused Monster Power Sports to leave Wakanda in search of a facility that was more suitable for them. So we were able to keep them in Wakanda by creating a more innovative, a lot more complicated, but as a more innovative solution to keep them in town. And what we were able to do was we worked hand in hand with the fire district, and the fire district was willing to work with us to waive the sprinkler system for a 10-year period. And over that 10-year period, the increase in their sales, we are going to use a portion of the sales tax from the increase in their sales to help pay for that sprinkler system. So that, in turn, this agreement allowed us to keep a business in town, expand, and then based on their expansion, the tax revenue that we would get from that sales tax, we use a portion of that to help pay for this $100,000 sprinkler system. So this is a business, again, we would have lost. We were able to keep it in Wakanda and actually help them grow. So we're very excited about that innovative approach, and we were happy to keep them in Wakanda, and very proud of the administrative team here in Wakanda to get that done. Moving on to our partnerships and annexations, the Business Alliance program was intended to provide businesses with information and an opportunity to share concerns, so it's really a forum for businesses in town. We partner with the Wakanda Area Chamber of Commerce for Wakanda U, and in that we want to provide programs that help businesses with information. And then the business visitation program also makes our staff available and others that we can bring in to help bring an outside objective third party in to give information and some advice and guidance to our local businesses. So boundary agreements, when we're looking at some of our other partnerships, that allows us to work with other municipal entities, other villages in the area, and it helps prevent developers from trying to get us to work against each other for development. So that's the purpose and the benefit of having boundary agreements with our neighbors, so that municipalities can negotiate individually with the developers without negotiating against each other. Shared services agreements. We're very happy to be working with the village of Port Barrington. In Port Barrington, we provide code compliance, and code compliance is something that it helps share the costs of our community service officers in Wakanda, and sometimes sworn officers. So that shared service is the way of the future, where villages can continue to provide these high quality services, and we can share the costs of those services across a wider tax base and across multiple villages. So we're very excited to be working with the village of Port Barrington there. Lake County, we have a contract with Lake County working on the signs, the salt, which we use in the wintertime, and then also road maintenance on several roads where they pay our public works to maintain their state or county roads. And the state roads, actually, the road maintenance program is with the Illinois Department of Transportation. So we're happy to have these shared service agreements. It helps bring in additional revenue, and it also helps spread out the costs of these services over a broader taxing base. Annexations, we're always looking for opportunities for annexing properties that will help, again, broaden our tax base. We want to reduce that reliance on our property tax and spread that over a broader area. And so we want to add commercial areas to broaden the tax base, as well as accessing key developmental parcels, so that it helps bring in that extra 1% in sales tax for the citizens of Wakanda. The Brown Street signalization is coming actually in the summertime this year, and we're looking forward to that. We'll put a lighted four-way intersection there at Brown Street, and it'll reduce the safety concerns we have there. It'll have better traffic flow. And again, this is a state road, and working with the Illinois Department of Transportation is always a challenge, unfortunately so, but we were able to get this done this year. We're also working on a similar restructuring of the Route 59 and US 12 configuration so that it'll provide another lighted four-way intersection there. And again, you'll hear that in economic development repeatedly because that's a screening criteria for these businesses in development. We want these lighted four-way intersections, not only for traffic flow and safety, but also to help bring better development to the village of Wakanda. Access on Route 12 and 176, that's one of the areas that was a problem with the Dominic's parcel, was that the limited access to the parcel. So we want to increase that access with the right in, right out. And again, we're working with the Illinois Department of Transportation to get that accomplished. And the water sewer study for South Main and Route 12 looks at expanding our transmission lines for both water and sewer into that area so that we can better develop those parcels. Strategic goal of excellence in governance. So this is focused on our core services. And when we look at our core services, what do we cover in the village of Wakanda? We have streets, water, sewer, and police, right? That's our main focus. And so when we're looking at the core services that we provide, we want to make sure that our staff, the professional staff that we have, are the best quality leaders that we can find. And I think leadership is key here because now that we've dealt with all of our controversial issues, we can really focus in on what we can do to better develop economic development as well as our leaders. And I think one of the most primary level of leaders is that of a parent. And when you think about it, parents don't try to get their children to fight with each other. Parents' main goal is to get them not to. So we try to unify each other. And as leaders, we need to keep that in mind, and that should be our primary focus. It's easy to break things down and ruin things. It's very difficult. You can take quite a few minutes to build a tower out of blocks for children, and it takes a half a second to knock it down. It's that we need as leaders. We need to bring people together, and we need to focus on what's going to be best for the majority of our citizenry. And our professional staff has done an excellent job of doing that. And what we've done here too is we're looking at not only recruiting and retaining the key staff that we have, but also the accreditations and certifications. So we're sending them to continuing education, and we're also pursuing accreditation for our departments so that we have the highest standards, the highest processes, and that will help us stay as the top-notch service that you would expect from the village of Wakanda. So for training and development, we look at this continuous improvement. We're looking for better ways to provide services, and we're also looking to continue the education for our leadership here in the village of Wakanda. So it sends them to those seminars, the schools, the classes that are going to help them maintain the best practices for municipal government. Quality assurance and quality controls. Now we've spent particular focus on this, on our water billing, the dispatch, police response, and public works, and looking at these different metrics and how that gives information for our leaders to make decisions. Because at the end of the day, you can't create a process for everything. You can't create a policy for everything. You need leaders with sound judgment to make the right call at the right time. And that's really what we're focused on. As a military leader, that's all I can do is lead through leaders, right? You can't drive 50 armored vehicles at the same time. I require leaders, subordinate leaders, to do that. And that's the same thing here in the village. Every department head is in charge of their area of responsibility. They have the authorization, and now they also have the continuing education to help support that focus, that they're in charge and they're going to make the best decisions they can at the key times that they need to make those decisions. Very proud of the staff here at the village of Wakanda. We have a very professional staff, and they've done an excellent job for us. Against all odds, they've been very successful these last 3 years, and we're going to get to more of what those results look like when we get to the financial aspects of this. So otherwise, we're looking at the efficient, effective core services. We've covered the innovation, best practice, and performance measurement. Those are the goals that we had for the leaders, and that's what they use as far as maintaining these core services. A key example of that is when you look at what we did for 403 Clearview. So our first option on that could have gone through the court systems, where we're working against the property owner that has a dilapidated property and it's really a hazard to the community. And that process would have taken about 18 to 24 months. So we talked about it and our staff, and we came up with another option, which is a more inclusive option, and we worked with the property owner and got the property owner to sell the property at a fair price. We demolished the property and we put the lot for sale. So the hazard was removed in July of 2015, and we currently have marketed the property. And this process only took about 6 months to do. It's a better scenario for the property owner. It's a better scenario for the village, and that partnership is a very innovative approach, and that's what we're looking to do more of in the Village of Wakanda. And I also think that that's a reflection of the leadership and the quality of the professional leaders that we have here in Wakanda. Looking at the police department and some of the innovative things we've been able to do there, it's no secret that heroin has been a big problem in Lake County, and it's a challenging thing because the only real way to affect this is influencing people, many times young people, and it's also, addiction is a very, very challenging disease state to try to address. But what we can do when it gets to the end state here, if somebody had an overdose, is the police department actually now carries and is trained on how to use Narcan, which is an antidote for heroin. So we've had the training and deployment in the spring of 2015, and our first Narcan use and save of a life was in November of 2015. So one thing I think is critical to understand about this type of addiction, especially to heroin, it is so extreme and so damning that the first thing they say when they have been saved, they're now revived, which they would have otherwise died, they say to the officer, they're mad because they no longer are high, right? You stole their high. That is how damaging heroin is. And so we can't influence folks enough that this is something that you never want to try, never want to engage in. But if it does come to the point where they've had an overdose, our police force is ready, and it is a grant-funded program, so it doesn't cost the taxpayer, and they're ready to give first aid to the folks that may fall victim to that. With the police department, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So our Wakanda PD participates in several multi-jurisdictional gang and drug crime prevention law enforcement groups. So we'll take a look at those. The Lake County Major Crimes Task Force investigates a focus on criminal activity. We have our Metropolitan Enforcement Group, where the Illinois State Police coordinates it with a focus on gangs, weapons, and drugs. And what do these programs do? They bring additional resources, which we couldn't afford individually, but through these shared programs, we can bring these law enforcement resources to bear on particular issues in Wakanda. And then lastly, and this is something that's new, that has been instituted by our new police chief, Dave Wormus, is the Lake County Gang Task Force. So Lake County Sheriff's Office manages this, and it's with training, equipment, records management, and the support is with the focus on gang awareness, drugs, and related criminal activity. So we joined this in February of 2016. And it's a high-profile arrest and seizure so far has already occurred. And the other beauty of this for the taxpayer is that these seizures, Wakanda gets to keep a portion of the net gain from those seizures. So some of the other things we've been able to do with the police department administratively, when we're looking at scheduling software, the scheduling software we have now is paperless. It helps us better manage our overtime, which is a significant expense for the department, as well as it gives better adherence to our collective bargaining agreements, and that's obviously critical for us to maintain good relations with our labor unions. We've reduced the number of administrative sworn officers and increased the street patrol, and that's something you'll see consistent throughout the village. We're leveraging technology, we're leveraging our leadership to get better productivity out of the resources that we do have. So by doing that, we were able to take one more officer off of desk duty and put them in the field, which obviously the more folks we have in the field, the better customer service we can provide for public safety. Records management software, when we're looking at the record management software, we replaced a 20-year-old software, if you can imagine, and that software only had a single user at a time capability. Now we've increased that with multi-user platform and ease of use. As you might expect, the programs have significantly improved over the last 20 years, and we're taking advantage of that technology and availing ourselves of the benefits that go with that. I'd like to point out how proud we are that Wakanda is one of the safest communities. We're in the top 50 of the safest cities in Illinois. We're actually number 40. And then violent crimes per 1,000 for the population, we're in the top 16, right? So Wakanda's 16th most safe, if you would look at it that way, for violent crimes in the state of Illinois. Looking at the FBI annual crime statistics for Wakanda, so you can see here that for some of the violent crimes like sexual assault and things like that, they're very low to start with, but we've had a reduction. Aggravated assault is down as well as arson, but they're all very, very low. Some of the ones that you have greater numbers as far as the crimes are concerned are also down, though, like burglary is down 38%. So things have definitely trended in the right direction for crime over the last year. Significant improvements in several areas, particularly when you're looking at the items like burglary. You can see with the new police chief, Dave Wormus, he's a 29-year veteran of Schaumburg and Streamwood police departments, and he started January 5th, so we're very happy to have Chief Wormus on board. Sergeant Tim Burke, as of June of 2015, he's the president for the Illinois Juvenile Officers Association. We have Sergeant Mike Yost, who's a graduate now of the Northwestern Police Staff and Command School. Patrol Officer McLean and Community Service Officer Stephanie Russell are our new Explorer Post Coordinators. So we're happy to have them working with the youth of the community and happy to have an Explorer program in Wakanda. Patrol Officer Finzi was hired in 2015, and he's also a graduate of the Police Training Academy, and he is almost up for his first year, so he's no longer be called a rookie. Our police internship program's in its second year now, so we appreciate the efforts of our former police chief, Pat Yost, for starting that program, and that has actually been very good for the community. We have 2 students there from Western Illinois University that are studying criminal justice, and we've actually had some hires from that in other areas of the department, so we're very excited about that program and look forward to that continued success. Something else we've been able to do is have better engagement. This is actually part of our vision, where we want to foster that sense of community. So we have the Cops versus Kids basketball, which is the third Friday of every month. The kids have really enjoyed this program. They actually asked me why I'm not there, but you can see here we have a picture of Air Wormus in action, getting schooled by a 5th grader, so that's always fun to see, and it's a very positive interaction with the police and the youth. The kids have actually stopped me. I have a son that's a 7-year-old, and he's involved in the basketball over there at the Park District, and they stopped me and told me how much fun they have with the Cops and Kids basketball. So that's exactly what we want to see. It helps build that relationship between our police officers and our community, and we really appreciate that. Moving on to infrastructure. So last year we did a study which evaluated 52 miles of streets and pavement, and the management program that we can develop from that study has been very important. It helps us decide when and where we're going to repair the roads. The good news is that 87% of all the streets were either rated satisfactory, good, or excellent. So we're in good shape as far as our streets program goes, and we've actually been coordinating this in conjunction with our Lake Michigan Water Project, so that we're not tearing up a street that we just laid. And that's moving around the east side of town now for phase 2 for running the water transmission mains. So you'll see several development activities going on throughout the summer. But you see here that it lays out for us areas that we need to improve, and we'll work on those in the coming year. Public Works-wise, we have a refuse and recycling contract that we just renewed with Waste Management. And the good thing about this is that we've been able to add in a lot of services for a very little increase in the price. So our curbside leaf service is something that I know the residents all wanted, and anyone with trees is going to really appreciate the fact that all you have to do is rake the leaves to the curb and we'll come around and vacuum those up. There's a 10% senior discount, so that helps really negate any change in the price for the seniors especially, but it really was only about $1 change, $1.50 I think, from the previous contract, and there's a lot of added values here. Adding at-your-door household hazardous waste collection, so any chemicals, they're not set in the garbage, they're set separately, and Waste Management will come by and pick those up, so it helps keep our ecology green. Our electronic collection is something else that's been added, and I think that's very important for folks who have old electronics because many of you may know, but SWALCO, which is the Solid Waste Agency for Lake County, has actually run out of money because of the popularity of that program and getting rid of the electric tube type televisions, things like that, and these big screen TVs. So now you actually can just take it to the curb. You don't have to haul it anywhere. You put it on the curb, Waste Management will come pick it up. That's all included in the new contract. So as far as the totes are concerned, I know there's been somewhat of a rough rollout with that because some folks got the wrong size tote from what they were looking for. And we're working with Waste Management on that. I know that in May they're going to do a free exchange of any totes. In the interim, just as a flexibility measure, if somebody really needed a different size tote, they can also call the Village Public Works Department, and we have a half dozen of each different size tote that we could exchange. And again, that's just a flexibility and innovation from our staff coming up with solutions where they saw some problems. So we appreciate your patience on that program, and once these totes are all out and everybody has the right one, we can take advantage of all these nice new benefits from this contract at very little cost to our taxpayers. For our capital improvement planning, our wastewater asset management, we're coming up with a plan to reduce costs and increase efficiency and reliability for all our assets. Wakanda, because of the topography, has more lift stations than any community in the area, which adds a significant expense to us, and we're looking to make that more efficient. Our road evaluation and rating studying guide helps us to better prioritize those projects and extend the pavement life. And in doing that, it reduces our capital expenses for streets. One of the new programs that we implemented there is the use of micro-resurfacing. And we're working through that with the residents to make sure that we can get the best use and the most use out of those streets. And it extends the life of the road as well as reducing the cost for overall capital expenditures for the improvements. The other thing we've implemented because of the emerald ash borer and the loss of over 700 trees in Wakanda is a program where we'll do a 50-50 parkway tree replacement program. So we'll take half the cost of that tree replacement and share it with the homeowner. The strategy is to replace parkway trees that are affected by that affliction of the emerald ash borer. The partnerships with adjoining property owners to reestablish the parkway trees in the area, and that the cost of the purchase and the planting of the trees will be split. The first year that we implemented this program, we had a budget of $7,500. In the coming year, we have increased that to $15,000. Administration and finance-wise, consolidation of dispatch has had the biggest impact there. And when we're looking at this plan that it was recommended by the staff and approved by our board this year, we are going to be moving to Lake Zurich, which is CALEA certified. And CALEA is the Commission on the Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies. It actually is going to provide us a higher level service for less money. And nowhere else in the budget were we able to achieve such savings and still keep the service. It provides performance enhancement and significant savings to the taxpayer. To address any concerns that when you call 911 that you won't have folks show up, I just want to point out that currently, in our current system, if we have two dispatchers on duty, if that third call comes in, what happens to that call? That call automatically gets transferred to Lake Zurich now. Similarly, last year we had a power outage that was about a 6-hour power outage at the police department. During that time period, all calls went automatically to Lake Zurich. So they're already dealing with our calls now and have been doing so for the last several years. So I want to address that concern and assure you that our 911 dispatch services aren't changing that drastically. The other thing I think is important for people to understand is that the dispatchers are just the conveyor of information. The people that are taking action, the police force, the paramedics, the fire department, they're all the same folks that are taking care of your service now. They already know where these locations are at. They already know where you live. I think that's important for you to know that when someone is called, that they'll actually respond to your location. So we want to allay any of those concerns. When you look at our expenditures for the financing aspect of this, in the past year we spent $687,000 on dispatch, and with the new contract it'll only be $228,000+. So it's a significant savings to the taxpayer. The first year we'll have savings of over $226,000, and every year thereafter it'll be over $400,000 in savings to the taxpayer. Also, we've switched our emergency notification system in the fall of 2015 to Everbridge. And with Everbridge, we actually got a lot more benefits and a lot more features. It's a feature-rich program compared to what we were using with Blackboard. So we get all of these things, the utilization of your phone, text, and email notifications, rather than just phone, which it was on our previous program, and it's half the cost. So in addition to that, you can also sign up for specific categories for subscriptions. So as an example, if you live on the lake and you want to know what the wake or no wake rule is for the day, this will allow you to subscribe to the Bangs Lake subscription. In the past, that wasn't possible. You get all these added features, and it's half the cost of what the previous emergency notification system provided. We've switched to Civic Plus in the fall of 2015, and I know Elise has put a lot of time and effort into this and have created a great product for us. It helps us to more effectively present and disseminate village information, and you'll see that all of the village board meetings are now available online, so you can watch the video of that if you choose, as well as it has enhanced security to avoid website hijackings, which have actually happened, believe it or not, by terrorist organizations. They like to pick on municipalities because they know the security is lower and it's still a governmental entity. And so we've had 2 hijackings from extreme Muslim groups that took over our police website and also the Village of Wakanda website. We have less risk of that now because Civic Plus has a much greater security system in place. So we encourage everyone to go to www.wakanda-il.gov, and also it is a work in progress, so if you see anything that you think needs to be updated, let us know, let Elise know, and we'll make sure we take care of it for you. We've also changed our utility billing company, so we're switching to a company by the name of Third Millennium. The prior billing firm, which was based out of New York, they had frequent errors, and there was too much time spent fixing those problems. So we've switched to a new firm that's based out of the Chicago metropolitan area, and it has more consistent, better communication, and a higher level of service for our residents. Collective bargaining, our AFSCME Public Works and Illinois Council of Police for our sergeants' unions have entered into 4-year agreements with the Village of Wakanda that started in May of 2015. And it provides better employment security for those folks. It's better scheduling in exchange for sustainable economics. And that was key for us because the health insurance aspects of having employees is very expensive, and so they've worked with us to pay more of that from the employee side, and we gave them sustainable wage growth. It's very moderate, and it's, I think, in the best interest of all parties, which is always our goal. We appreciate the cooperation from our AFSCME folks and also our Sergeants Union, and look forward to our future cooperation there. Our Fraternal Order Police, which is our patrolmen, we're still working on an agreement with them. That agreement expired April 30th of 2015, and so we're looking for ways to come up with solutions there. And we did, again, for our Fraternal Order Police telecommunicators, we had a 2-year agreement, which was all the way up through dispatch consolidation, and it had moderate wage growth. So again, that was a fair agreement for both parties. Early warning sirens. So on the north side of town, we had a gap in our early warning coverage. And so in April of 2015, we installed and activated that new system. And that was actually paid for from a $30,000 donation from the developer of Liberty Lakes. And that covers a significant area up there that was underserved. And so we're happy to have that in place now. Our special events policy is now in place too, and that I think is important for us because it provides better risk management, better emergency management planning, and it adds for cost recovery. So that is important for us because the taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for all the added services associated with these different events. And so we have a good cooperative agreement with all the folks that are doing special events now to make that happen. Our capital improvements plan, we have a 5-year plan looking to how and when we're going to do these different capital improvements, and that helps us better plan ahead for our financial efforts. And then the Lake Management Fund is a self-supporting fund paid for by the boat stickers, where it's going to cover the Marine Unit Patrol as well as the maintenance of the lake activities. And that's important because only the center part of the lake is owned by the Village of Wakanda, and that doesn't really require maintenance. So the users of the lake and all the other areas that are going to require maintenance, it's actually paid for by those that use the lake. So it's a very fair way to set it up, and it's effective. It's working well, and we're excited to have that new plan in place. Equipment replacement schedules. So that's the other thing I think is important to see, that when this administration first took over in 2013, there was a significant number of our vehicles and equipment that actually we were borrowing monthly and making monthly payments to have that equipment. We've changed that significantly, and we're reducing that to the point where we all own all of our equipment, we buy all of our equipment, we don't pay that extra financing fee for the loans on those equipment. So I'm happy to have that done, and that's going to make a significant difference to our bottom line long term. So you'll see the last complete year we have is the year ending April 30th, 2015. We're on a fiscal year, not a calendar year. And you'll see that we have almost $815,000 surplus. So excited again to be able to underspend our neighbors' money. And we are very cautious about how we spend that money, because it's not our money as a village, it's our neighbors' money. And the staff has done a great job of planning, and we're very excited to have these record levels of surpluses in the village of Wakanda, because it's going to help us pay for some of these capital improvement projects rather than having to borrow to do these. And as I'd mentioned before, we can't borrow more than $14 million, because that's all that's left in our credit line. So for the current budget year ending this month in April, you'll see that we actually are on track to have almost a $600,000 surplus. However, we are going to have to pay for some of the emergency improvements on Callahan Road, so that may reduce that somewhat. But you'll see there's a continuous trend here. The first year was about a $750,000 surplus, the second year of $815,000 surplus, and the third year of around a $600,000 surplus. You'll see that trend and that positive relationship between our expense curve and our revenue curve, that we are better managing your money. We're more effectively using that money to have improved services for the benefit of the village of Wakanda. So this is what the 10-year general fund trend looks like. And I think it's important to see that traditionally Wakanda has underspent what they've taken in revenue and held some surpluses. And there's a period there from 2009 to 13 where that wasn't the case. And now we've again have a positive relationship between expenditures and revenue. And I think that's the key here, to see that the red line is below the green line significantly and predictably. And you can see that it has a direct relationship with each other there, and that's what we want to see for planning. It makes our financial planning so much easier, and it also makes it sustainable. And that's a critical factor that, and a goal that we had when this administration first took over, was to make this village operation sustainable. So also in the water sewer fund, which is the other fund, major fund that we have to manage here, you see here that there's a small surplus of $68,000. And that's important to see. So we're charging basically $68,000 when you're looking at a $4 million budget is a very small amount of money. And that the importance there is it shows you that we're very close to being right on target for charging the exact amount of water rate that we should charge. It's not too high, it's not too low, we're charging the exact amount. And that's something that took some doing, but we brought it back in line. You can see here, again, the 10-year trend was, over the last 10 years, it's been in the deficit spending. And so we were very happy in 2013 to actually bring that under control. And now you can see, again, the positive relationship between the green line and the red line. So the green line is revenues that we're bringing in water rates, and the red line is the expenses. Again, the expenses should always be less than what we're bringing in revenue. We've restored the proper relationship there, and that makes a sustainable water sewer system moving forward. The new normal in municipal finance. So that's something that we've heard here at the Village Hall repeatedly since we brought on two experts when I first took over in 2013. And those experts are Stan Helgerson, who's still working with us as our part-time finance director, and Dave Richardson. And Dave wrote an article in a municipal magazine, which that's the title of it, The New Normal. And the point of it is that we have to change the way that we're operating in government, and it has to be within the spending limits that our citizenry can afford. And so when we're looking at this, we have to learn from past experiences, and when we look at what we've done, we have to commit to fiscal responsibility. The strategic planning process that we monitor, and we actually use metrics to track our financial spending and make these adjustments monthly, and also putting financial policies in place that make that possible. That's critical, and it's now demanded for sustainability for any municipality. The future presents an opportunity for us to reshape government, and that's something that I think you'll see we have done in Wakanda. We very much want to make it a customer service focused. This is a non-for-profit service entity in the village of Wakanda, and we want to make it seen that we are there to be the customer service representatives and the managers and the custodians of your village and the services for your village. There's successful organizations will be those who have strong leaders, and that's why we've been focused on that. Our professional staff is critical. As the mayor, all I can do is lead through leaders. That's all I can do, and that's all I have done. I won't micromanage my leaders. We give them their clear instruction, their clear focus, clear policy, and they go out and make the job happen. And that's why we've had the success we've had in the village of Wakanda. Communities that work cooperatively together will be the most successful, and that's something that we've continually worked on too. We don't want to engage in the politics that bring people down. We want to engage in the leadership that unites people, and we keep focused on our mission. We keep focused on the task at hand that is going to accomplish that. So I think you'll see that we have adhered to the idea that the new normal is here to stay, and we are working to make this village government sustainable for you without increasing your taxes. This year will be the first year in a long period of time that we will not increase any property taxes. So we've levied a 0% tax increase for the general fund for the village of Wakanda. The only area you'll see on your property tax bill that has any increase at all is for the police pension fund, and that's because we need to. We're 58% funded on the pension fund, and again, that's an issue that at some point must be addressed by the state to bring that under control. The pension system issue is a big issue, and the state has to come up with some solution for that. When you look moving forward, we review our budgetary and financial policies annually, and we've definitely brought that in line. As you can see on those two trend lines, we've brought both budgets, one for the water and sewer fund, one for the general fund, in line, and our revenues exceed our expenses. Evaluating our current service levels for effectiveness, I think you'll see that there has been no reduction in service in any department of any sort. And actually, we've been able to expand services. At the same time, we've reduced costs. So I think that's a critical component to look at when you're evaluating the effectiveness and the efficiency of our village operations. Documenting and funding the capital equipment needs has been critical for us as well. We're not going to borrow for our equipment, and we're also not going to borrow more than we need to for the capital projects that we have before us, especially the very expensive Lake Michigan water project. And a good portion of that we'll be able to pay for with reserves because of our surpluses. We're carefully tracking the state and federal regulations and the changes that we may see. We expect in the coming year we'll probably see a property tax freeze, but it won't affect us here in Wakanda because we've already had a 0 increase in our levy. We've already planned ahead for this when we thought we may have this last year, but given the budget impasse at the state level, we didn't see that this year. We expect there's going to be some change here this coming year, and in fact, there needs to be changes at the state level this coming year. And a week ago, we saw the state bond ratings again were reduced. So unfortunately, Illinois is one step above junk bond status. Well, what does that mean? It means that they will no longer be able to borrow money. And so that's a big challenge for the state government, and it's going to force some type of action. They're going to have to take some corrective action for these big issues that are facing them. They won't be able to kick the can down the road like they did last year. We've embraced technology here, and we're leveraging technology to try to increase productivity. And by doing that, we were able to have more productivity, more services available to the public, and not increase the cost. And in fact, we've reduced the cost of those services. Consolidating the services is obviously we had that with the dispatch, but also intergovernmental cooperation has made sustaining our government more practical and more feasible and keeping the budgets under control. So we will not compromise our internal controls, and at each level and each department, there are internal controls for how we spend your money. Moving forward, the biggest challenge facing our community will be the potential reduction from the state in any kind of revenues that come from the state. Last year we saw a 14% increase in our sales tax, which is great for us, and that's the right path. So the past year we had 43% reliance on property taxes for revenue for the village of Wakanda, and that's not a good position to be in, and we're working actively to change that. So this current year we're at 39.5%. So we've made some growth there. We've made some realignment where our revenues are coming more from other sources and less from property taxes. That's our goal. And when you look in our audit, it compares the village of Wakanda to other communities that are near us. And of the different communities, Wakanda was the highest by far. The next highest was in the 25% range, and we really need to get down below 25%, more like 20% reliant on property taxes. So that's been our goal. That's why we're working towards this end. The two areas of revenue that we have had increase over the past year. We had a big increase in the revenues coming from gaming, but that was actually a relatively small dollar amount. It was only about $170,000. But we did see the big change for us has been the increase in the sales tax portion of our revenue, which was a 14% increase on about a $2.5 million amount of money. So that's much more significant to us. That's our focus, and that's the way forward for us to have more retail where our residents can take the benefit of having that retail. It's a benefit to be able to go buy something local, and then they also get the added benefit of that 1% paying back from sales tax to help pay for their government. When we look at exponential growth in pension obligations for the police department and mandates by the state, and this is mandated by state statute, this is one of the things that we are going to be burdened with in the coming years until the state fixes this problem. Finding ways to address the aging vehicle and equipment without sufficient revenues to replace these items and maintaining service levels for these core services is important for us. And one of the innovative things that we've done in this regard is to refurbish some of these trucks. So there's some equipment we have that's 6 figures to replace a vehicle, and instead we're spending $30,000 to refurbish the vehicle and get another 10 years or so life out of that equipment. Retaining and attracting top-notch professional staff was a key goal for us, and we've been very successful at that. In 2013, when I took over, we were able to get Doug Maxiner as our village administrator. We've had outstanding success with Doug, very happy with his performance. And also, we've been able to attract David Wormus, again, as our new police chief. Very happy with Dave and looking forward to his success in the coming years. We need to remain competitive with the other municipalities that are around us in both attracting new residents and businesses. We need to build on that success that we've had with bringing in other sources of revenue and ending the over-reliance on property tax for funding the village government. I thank you for taking the time to watch the State of the Village address. I appreciate all the support that we've had from our community, as well as all the excellent work we've had from the village staff. I look forward to our continued success in the future, and God bless you and your families, and God bless America. Thank you.